All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Good morning, everybody. Oh, you feel good. I know. I feel it too. Big changes. We'll discuss them. Big changes in this country. The country's finally coming around to some stuff that they should be. Of course, we as a nation still cling to a bunch of stuff we shouldn't, but we'll get to all of that as the day proceeds. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Want to say good morning to all the boys and girls. Kim, good morning.
Morning.
Yeah. And good morning to Tony.
Morning.
Yeah, Tony, who's the technical wizard. Makes it all happen. He has a big week ahead here because we got to rebuild everything. And I know he would say, Mark, your bed is too hot right now. It's really very hot.
Morning.
It's hot. I like a hot bed, to be perfectly honest, okay?
Actually, it sounds okay today.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
Fabulous producer John Daly's here, of course. What's up, Johnny?
Morning.
How are you,
Build
Johnny?
it better.
Yeah, we'll build it back better. I love that. It's a great plan.
Although this music is perfect for a hot bed.
Yeah, it is hot. Yeah.
We're going to rebuild it, and we're going to build it back better.
Oh, that's cool. Well, it's great to have everybody here, and good morning, all. Yeah. So they're saying in the chat already, people who jump into the chat, I saw something about the fact that the live chat was disabled in replay. Usually you can watch the show exactly how we do it. So you'll see the conversation, the guests, whatever, and you'll see the live chat if you want. You just click on live chat.
Did we get busted again?
I don't think so, though.
I was watching it last night.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's
was
a bug
watching
in
it
the
last night,
system. I think for some people it doesn't show up. I think that's just part of the buggy nature of it.
That is, I don't know why it wouldn't be able to, show them the live chat.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah,
I'm afraid I can't do that.
Right, it might be another AI thing. I don't know what's happening with you people who can't see the chat, but I'm just saying.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Okay, it's computers and AI, and we're dealing with all of that stuff. So sorry that you couldn't see the chat. You should be able to see it. I have people who've contacted us about music, which is really cool. I want to acknowledge some of them. And I want to also, Kim was saying she had a big day because she had a parent-teacher thing that she had to do yesterday.
Parent-teacher conference week.
How did the parent-teacher conference go? Now, you have two children,
I have
boy and a
Jacob,
girl.
who's 8, and that conference was actually pretty all right,
Which is not necessarily, in his case, always something you can count on.
It is not the case. Case in point, last night we're doing homework, and I go to look at the math packet. Jacob's in 3rd grade. Half the packet's missing. I say jokingly, "Wait, did you throw it away?" He walks to the recycle bin sheepishly and pulls it out. Like, you threw away your homework for real?
Mad applause for that.
It's a wild
idea. It
just might work.
Yeah.
It did not work in this case. So not only did he have to do that, but more. But yesterday I had Julia's parent-teacher conference, and apparently Julia is headed for a brilliant career in podcasting. Here's why. Julia's teacher says, Julia's great. We love having her in class. She does talk to her friends a lot. She's very social, this girl. And we just can't figure something out. Sometimes Julia turns in brilliant work, above, grade level, just wonderful. And sometimes, not so much. So we can't figure out why she doesn't apply herself all of the time. That's the story of my life. That's exactly what was written on every report card. Why does Kim not apply herself always?
Oh, well, then you and I are the same. I mean, I got that. That was
so you're a model parent.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. My entire education was marked by that kind of comment from teachers.
Mark doesn't apply himself?
I don't recall any. No, but they always do it
Mark is amazing and brilliant and talented, but what the heck, Mark?
He's clearly so intelligent or whatever the heck they say. And I to be perfectly honest, rather than make this comment self-serving about how intelligent I am, I think they just say that to parents. I don't know that I actually was. But one thing they all agreed on was that I was not applying myself. And so that's a familiar, I think that must be like an F7 default on their computer evaluations, or they just go, and another one, they just have to cut and paste. Your
Mark
kid
is a
so
genius.
talented. Right.
However,
Doesn't apply himself.
Mark's work is lackluster.
Yeah. While I'm thinking
Where's
of it.
the effort, Mark? Where's the effort?
Yeah, no one was smashing my like button back when I was a kid.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Do hit the like button for us if you're watching right now. It helps us, and you know all the other ways to support us as well. Speaking of support, I want to acknowledge Steve Moskowitz. He is our founding exclusive sponsor. Steve is the tax ninja, and you should avail yourself of his services if you're not only in the Bay Area and California, but anywhere in the country and anywhere in the world. I mean, Steve has people in his office, all of whom are licensed and can do tax work, and he's a tax attorney of great measure, of a tremendous track record. Over 30 years he's been doing business in the Bay Area and California, as I say. So I want you to feel not only comfortable but confident that Steve can help you out. 888-TAX-DEAL, 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 or MoskowitzLLP.com. He'll be along later. I want to just mention what's coming up, and then I just want to do some acknowledgments. There are these conferences, environmental conferences. We talked about them last show with Belinda Waymouth. She's our eco-journalist, and she's going to come in with It's the Planet Stupid in the next hour, around 11:35. And the effects of emissions on the Earth, that's one thing. But the loss of habitat, which is, I understand, linked to that too, because carbon sequestration and other things can be aided by some of these habitats that, if you leave them alone, can do the work of getting rid of some of the carbon in the air. But that's a separate conference, okay? So there's a conference for reducing, fossil fuel emissions, and then there's a conference for trying to protect habitat and protect biodiversity. Well, one of the shocking things about the second conference, the biodiversity conference and protecting it, is that no world leaders showed up. So here's this thing that's supposed to be a front and center issue as the planet essentially is on fire. And once again, it becomes one of these things that gets shoved out by you tell me, world events or whatever. Belinda will talk about that. Yeah, it really is sad. So anyway, there's that coming up in the second hour. I'll get to Pelosi. I'll get to gay marriage. I've got audio from Herschel Walker. I've got audio from Mark Milley about the situation in Ukraine. I thought that might be of interest to you as well. And we have audio and video of Mike Pence. So there's so much still to do.
That'll be riveting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when you can go out and get coffee. It's short. It's
Are you mad,
mercifully
Mike? Are you
short.
mad?
Yeah. Mr. Charisma, Mike Pence, who has, of course, recharacterized himself as the restrained superhero of January 6th.
Completely disingenuous, perfect for politics.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Many of you at the very start of our show were aware of the fact, because we kind of share everything with you in this format. We need your help, and we sort of feel like you have agency, I feel this way anyway, to help us and also to know some of the stuff that's going on. And so without giving you all of our problems, I was mentioning to you the copyright strikes you can get with certain music, because music used to be a big part of the radio show. And we'd curate music, and we did Mark Music Monday, we do Throwback Thursday, all that stuff. We can't do any of that stuff now on YouTube because of the copyright strikes that you get. The music, they're really, really tough. In fact, you can run a rally for some political figure, and if there is music in the background, YouTube will give you a copyright strike. So that's how sensitive they are. So many of you kind of rode to our assistance on this. And I wanted to acknowledge, and I can't do it all right now, but I wanted to acknowledge a few of you right now. And I'm going to try to give all of you over the next week or 10 days a moment or two on the show with your music, because I think the music is really cool. And some of it is bluegrass, and some of it is upbeat funk, and some of it is disco, and some of it's just really cool. So thank you, all of the musicians who stepped up in the early days of the show, and these are still the early days, but I'm saying right away. I think we're in the first week of the show. We're getting all these copyright strikes. And, I'm looking at John and Kim going, I don't know what to do. I mean, because music is a big part of things. So, and I mentioned Eric to you. Eric, who is, to me, he's like a remarkable, well, he runs a production library of music, and he just gave it all to me, which is just amazing. And I'll give him a formal shout out soon, but I kind of want to organize that shout out in a way that would make a difference. But Eric is, that guy's just the greatest to me. And he didn't want a shout out. He even made that point. He said, I'm not looking for a shout out, man. Here it is. Great. I love your show. And here's the music. And just the coolest. So, but I also wanted to acknowledge those people who are having stepped up. And one of them in the earliest days is from John. I knew this was going to happen.
And the winner is?
Parks and Teresa is, here's a little bit of their music. Wild Desire is what this song is. And it could have been it's got a kind of synth feel and Here are two of our songs from our original band, Blue Adept is the name of the band. Maybe they can work for your show. We are hooked and listen to your podcast every day. Thanks from the Wilsons, Parks and Teresa. Here it is. So Teresa says this in a following email. Actually, this music works really well. Mark, besides being a musician, I'm also an optician.
Oh.
For what it's worth, I think you look better on camera with the dark glasses.
Okay.
Your eyes really stand out with them. The others are stylish and cool, but I like the others better. Also, do you think you're going to play our music sometime soon? Here's a little bit more of the music. A big thanks to Teresa Wilson and to that band. Parks and Teresa.
I like it.
It
big
really is
out.
good. Yeah, big shout out. Very, very cool. Super cool. I think that's a Dan Ashley big shout out. Do we have that up? Yeah. Do I have
Big shout out.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm
not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
I'm not gonna cry. Wild Desire. Yeah. Parks and Teresa. Wow. The original band, Blue Adept. Anyway, that's one. I'll get to some others, but I really wanted to thank them formally and tell you something else embarrassing. There's just utter madness. Again, I don't know if you noticed, we have we have the new banner up behind me. There's just a sort of madness that happens. There's all of this stuff here and there, all these particulars. Equipment has to be rebuilt. Equipment has to go out. There's all this stuff. And in all of that stuff, I lost my black-rimmed glasses, Teresa. So I'm sorry. I don't even have the option of the black-rimmed. I will find them. And I'm someone with a pretty distinguished track record when it comes to losing glasses. So, and I used to wear I was on television all the time. I used to wear contacts. So I really wore contacts for years and years and years. And I've just gotten back to wearing glasses because I don't need them to, So anyway, I'll find the black rims.
They're doing this to ruin our Christmas.
Yeah, they're doing it to ruin our Christmas. I don't know. I hope I get them.
I do like the new tarp, the Mark Thompson tarp, though. That's nice.
That's a banner, Kim. It's not a tarp.
My bad.
Tarp sounds
I'm sorry.
like, you need help
right.
with a leaky roof.
Right, exactly. It's not a...
Is that? Can we get that on the getmarkmerch.com?
I don't think you have... No, it's not available on Get Mark Merch.
Someone did this
tarp.
to spoil our Christmas.
There it is. Thank you very much. Yeah, maybe you can get a tarp. I don't think so.
The Mark Thompson roof tarp.
All of a sudden, this is like Survivor. Like, okay, you win a tarp and a container
you get
of
a
rice.
tarp, and you get tarp.
Rice and some fire-making equipment.
It's not just any tarp. It's a Mark Thompson tarp.
You get flint.
Oh, my God. Well, anyway, so it's our latest edition. The deal with Nancy Pelosi is that she will not seek a leadership role. She plans to stay in Congress, but apparently will not seek a leadership role as minority leader. I mean, it's historic. I feel as though the camps around Nancy Pelosi in terms of public opinion fall into the categories of she represents the old guard. The new Democratic Party is different. She was a fundraising champion, but sometimes it seemed as though she embraced loss because it was an effective fundraising tool. I mean, I think these comments are not without merit, but, and I think, this is one of those things you say maybe when somebody's stepping down, but I also think it has the additional virtue of being true. She also bridged all of those different manifestations of the Democratic Party. So when the Democrats were truly a working class party, it goes back to the, decades, right? Nancy Pelosi really emerged in that environment. And think also about the fact that she's a woman. I mean, I love that she's a woman. I love that a woman in leadership maintained that leadership with great strength for so long. So I feel as though it is historic, and what she did was historic, and trying to build coalitions, especially with the Democrats, where that big tent has increasingly brought in more and more constituencies and more special interests, if you want to think of it that way. And I understand special interests has has the vibe of bad and the stink when we say special interest, but I'm talking about the progressive wing of the party, minority wings of the party. These are wings of the party that didn't have much power in the early days, and Pelosi brought it all together. So I am going to say that for her as she steps down.
Although she did resist the progressives until she realized she couldn't. She is my congressperson, and I will say I will enjoy having a representative who actually interacts and engages with his or her constituents and talks to local reporters. She's a polarizing figure, and I think it's time to go.
Yeah, well, she is that, and she is going. So
Dirt fly.
Oh, that was the dirt fly.
We want to see dirt fly.
Yeah, that's on the infrastructure bill she was commenting.
She came on KGO absolutely 0 times in the last 20 years.
Yeah, and John makes a good point, because think about that. That is her constituency, and KGO, massive station for many, many years. She could have reached that constituency.
I don't think that's true, because I've interviewed her when I used to work for Station X. So
you did? When was that? Well, she wouldn't come on for an interview for a talk show.
Yeah, not like a big interview, but I've caught her out at events and interviewed her before. But I guess I can't fault her. She's busy, doing other things. But you're right. It will be nice to have someone whose focus is on San Francisco.
Yeah, when you get to the national level and you're that level of a politician, she appeared on CNBC's Mad Money, I think 3 times in the past year, but she wouldn't do local media. So
right,
sorry.
Look, that is not a road untraveled by others. A lot of people get into public life and they ditch their district and they go for national media. I mean, I think that, you got the Matt Gaetzes of the world are like that. Look at these Marjorie Taylor Greens. I mean, these people, I'm talking about the new hotheads who are just flamethrowers. They just want to get on national TV. And Sean Hannity and Fox News and the MSs of the world enable them to some degree. And sometimes they have important things to say. But you're right. They're there in Washington to represent a constituency, and that should be their front and center issue. And those things that affect their district. So there's that. I think the gay marriage bill to ensure essentially federal recognition of same-sex marriage, I think that's pretty big. And when we come back, I want to just mention what's happening, because you're seeing a change among the GOP, but don't get drunk on that change because it wasn't a lot of the GOP who stepped forward on it. But I want to get to that next as we continue. Smash the like button and join us in the chat. We're live on YouTube on this Thursday.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Check out my guy, Steve Moskowitz. I was talking about you at the start of the show, Steve Moskowitz. Just because I think what you do is not only good for Californians, but it's good for people. You know, we have listeners and viewers all across the country, and those numbers are increasing. And I want them to know that they can avail themselves of your services as well.
Absolutely. We're here to help you. And a major way to help you is this ERC, Employee Retention Credit. This is where the federal government is rewarding employers who employed people during 2020 and 2021. The federal government is giving away, it's not a loan, it's a grant. They just give you the money of up to $26,000 for every employee that you have that qualifies. And you say, okay, what do I have to do to qualify? There's two ways. And I call one way the easy way. The easy way is a certain drop in gross revenue. That's mathematical. You're either there or you're not. Nothing to think about. But a lot of firms, a lot of CPAs stop there and say, well, if your gross revenue didn't drop enough, no ERC for you. Goodbye. Not true. The law provides there's two ways, and it's either or. That's one way, the easy way. We start there too. But the big difference is it's a facts and circumstances test. And a lot of people that don't qualify on the drop in gross revenue do qualify on the facts and circumstances. Not everybody. We're willing to sit down with you, take the time, take the effort, and figure out, do you qualify or not? And sometimes we can do it on the first call, and other times we have to give the client homework and say, look, I need to know some more information, tell me. But there's so much money potentially at stake. Mark, some of the clients have literally gotten millions of dollars, and lots have got hundreds of thousands and smaller amounts too. So although not everybody qualifies, we want to make sure if you qualify under either way, you can go ahead and get this money. On the other hand, the IRS is actively investigating the frauds because there are a whole bunch of companies just popped up. They're not law firms. They just popped up to do ERC. And then they're going to disappear into the night. So when the IRS has a few questions, say, hey, I got a disconnected phone number here. We are a tax law firm. We've practiced tax law for over 30 years. We're here for you. And if you qualify, we want to get you all this money.
How long does ERC processing typically take, Steve?
So the government has gotten better on that. And the good part about it is they pay you interest. So the longer they take to write you the check, the more, see, we're doing something new today. The longer they take, the bigger the check. So whatever amount of money we asked for, they give you more than that because they add interest from the time the original return was due.
That is nice? So cool. Yeah, that really is cool. And we haven't talked about that before. So I love it. Hey, start the process. If you're a small business owner, as I've mentioned this before, even if you're a sole proprietor, you never know. I mean, at least give it a run. That could be money sitting there that belongs in your bank account. Talk to Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. You can also reach him online, of course, MoskowitzLLP.com. You spell Moskowitz, Moskowitz. You spell LLP, LLP. It's Moskowitz, LLP.com. Steve, very, very cool. Let's talk next hour. Appreciate it.
I've told you, it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I mean, if you want to talk about the same-sex marriage rights passing a crucial test in the Senate, it's happened. And it speaks to the Democrats that they made it one of their premier items to act upon in this lame duck session, right? They're all headed out the door on the House side. So if you want to get anything done, you can get it done in the Senate. Then it has to be sent to the House, of course, and signed by the president. So this still has to happen. And this was just a provisional vote. But you'll need, obviously, senators from the opposite side of the aisle because the Democrats initiated this process. But you'll need, buy-in from the GOP. And they got it. They got 12 Republicans to buy in and join Democrats to advance this. They call it the Respect for Marriage Act. Essentially, this is rolling back that it's the what was it? The Defense of Marriage Act, right? The Defense of Marriage Act was like essentially saying that if you're a same-sex couple, you're not entitled to federal benefits. Okay, so this is rolling that back. They needed buy-in from the GOP, as I mentioned. They got 12 of them, and that's pretty big time. But I also want to say that that still leaves a lot of guys who didn't vote for it, and among those guys, Mitch McConnell, the minority leader, he voted against it. 37 Senate Republicans voted no. So, again, I would say, pro tip to GOP, you may want to find God on this because 70% of America is good with this. So this cultural issue ain't winning for you anymore. I understand that in the deepest red states, maybe, that there's some traction. But in general, you want to let go of this. I'd stay with your Second Amendment stuff. But, you know, this whole, sorry, I was just looking at the chat. This whole idea somehow that the Democrats are going to take your God, the Democrats are going to take your guns. So there's a lot of messaging that's associated with the general fire throwing, flame throwing that is done by politicians. But I would suggest that they erase this part. They should hit the delete button on anti-gay because more and more families have gays in their families, have same-sex couples in their families, or know people. Or they
especially
realize,
if your title is minority leader.
Yeah, right.
I have a question
That's awkward.
regarding this issue. There's an actress, you probably don't know who she is because she's on the Hallmark Channel movies. Her name was Cameron Candon Bure. And she came out saying, you know, she moved to a different network because she was feeling uncomfortable with her Christian faith and the fact that Hallmark is including gay couples in their movies now.
Wow.
So there was another young, I don't know, I want to call her actress, but kind of marketer, influencer that came out and said, wait a minute, you're a bigot. You're nothing but a bigot. And so now we've got someone in the chat room saying marriage is between one man, one woman. And I want to block the person, but part of me says, well, that's their opinion. You can't block someone for having an opinion. However, if you think their opinion is bigoted, then maybe they do need to be blocked.
I think it's ludicrous. Look, I would say a couple of things about that. One of them is marriage is a completely artificial construct. It was a legal, if you go back to the roots of marriage, right? It was a legal contract made between, in the very old days, a woman's family, okay, a girl's family. They were marrying off really young kids, right? And it was a contract between that family and some guy who they felt would take care of their daughter. That's why there were dowries. That's why there were all these deals associated with money. There were inducements on the girl's family part to get her married so that she'd be taken care of and so that their offspring would be provided for. That's how marriage started. It was absolutely a construct. It wasn't handed down by Lord on high or whatever. We dressed it up with a lot of stuff, ceremony and the Lord and different religions and different interpretations, and it was consecrated in different ways and memorialized in different ways. So there is the justice of the peace marriage. There's the marriage in the Catholic Church marriage. And everything in between. You know, there's the marriage at the Elvis Chapel. Mm-hmm. So we've changed marriage through the centuries, but this is fundamentally a legal arrangement.
Contract. It's a contract.
Yeah. And so let's knock off the holier than thou crap about marriage is this, marriage is between a man and a woman. Says who? The whole thing's invented. You've got to let go of that. I think it's a completely ignorant position. I mean, utterly ignorant. But The minute you start defaulting to some biblical text or whatever, you lose me. You lose me. The Bible is written by guys, and look, I get that it can help people through, and religion can help people through some very tough times, and it can also be an organizing principle for community and all the rest. I'm not dumping on it necessarily from many standpoints, but I sure as hell am dumping on it from the standpoint of this idea of taking people's rights away. So, no, I think that's a point of such ridiculousness that I think, and in general, I think people have found the way on that. I just told you 70% of Americans in polling overwhelmingly favor this. That's why it's a losing. Marco Rubio, who still is about that man-woman thing, he's being left behind, as is Mitch McConnell and all the rest. Hey, but let me say this in fairness. Joe Biden was one of those people not that long ago, right? I mean, didn't Biden make remarks like that?
Google it.
I think so. And when I say not that long ago, I mean, I think it might have been 15 years ago or whatever. So people's views change on this. Society changes. And I would suggest that the society has evolved in a good way on this issue. And it needs to evolve in a good way on a bunch of other stuff also. But this one they should let go of. People want to get married, let them. I don't care what gender they are, let them. If you want part of that nightmare that's marriage.
Now we know where this is coming from.
Yeah, all right. I got to take a break, don't I, John? Yeah,
yes.
I think we do. All right. I love my Kim. I love her news. We'll do some Kim news. Then what are we doing, Johnny?
Acknowledgement.
I'm doing some acknowledgements, and I am... can I also do a little something on the Ukraine? I want to talk about Ukraine. I have some interesting exit polling news. It's actually pretty huge, and I wanted to share that with you as well from the midterms. So we have a ton of stuff to do. So we'll get to all of it as we continue. Thanks for being here. Please smash the like button. I haven't hit it much today. I haven't reminded you much, but please, if you're watching in replay, just hit the thumbs up. Make that happen, and that helps us in the YouTube algorithm. Also, super stickers and donations today. That's how we stay on the air. We will make those acknowledgments next as we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is not seeking re-election to House Democratic leadership. She made the announcement after Republicans were projected to retake the House next year. The California Democrats' decision comes weeks after her husband was badly injured during an attack at their home in San Francisco. House Republicans now in the majority, and they are starting to accuse President Biden of fraud for his alleged involvement in Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings. Kentucky's James Comer claiming the Biden family profited off the dealings by offering access to themselves. Ohio's Jim Jordan asserting that claims of Hunter Biden's controversy Russian misinformation are false. The average 401k balance is down by nearly 25% in the last year. Fidelity Investment says the average balance stands at a little more than $97,000. Despite that, the contribution rate is just under 14%. There's a Texas lawmaker advocating for a bill that would notify state police when someone buys gun magazines. State Representative Joe Moody says he's confident changes are coming following the Uvalde school shooting earlier this year. The gunman bought more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition before killing 21 people. There are 5 law enforcement cadets in California badly injured. They're among 25 recruits hurt after a wrong-way driver plowed into them in Los Angeles County. The recruits were running. They were on a run near the Sheriff's Academy. The CHP says a 22-year-old driver veered into the opposite lane and then smashed into those 25 recruits. Investigators still aren't sure if that crash was intentional. It looks like California is facing a $25 billion budget shortfall next year. The warning comes in a new report from the Legislative Analyst's Office, and it estimates the deficit could be followed by continued annual budgetary gaps over the next 3 years. The lawmakers are currently putting together proposals before the next budget is passed in June, but the state has $37 billion in reserves. That's considered a record high amount. Might be a good thing if we're going to face shortfalls over the next years. A student at Stanford is making history here in the Bay Area. At the age of 19, he becomes the youngest person elected to the school board for the Sequoia Union High School District in Redwood City. Seth Victory won his seat on the school board with 57% of the vote. He gained some experience serving as the student trustee on the board, says he has a unique insider perspective of the problems facing teachers and kids, and that's 19-year-old kid himself starts his 4-year term next month. Roku is set to lay off 200 employees, the San Jose-based company citing current economic conditions after cutting almost 7% of its workforce. As of late last year, Roku had about 3,000 full-time employees in 13 different countries. That, of course, comes as other tech and media companies have made layoffs recently, like Amazon, Disney, Meta. I'll go ahead and include Cumulus in that. A 900, because why not? Media company, hey. There is a 900-pound Swarovski crystal star sitting atop New York City's Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. It's covered in 3 million crystals. It was lifted into place with a crane, and right now, as I speak, the work is underway to put in 50,000 multicolored lights. So here we are on the way to the holidays. That's right. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz for more than 30 years. Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, well, you just call Steve at 888-TAX-DEAL or catch him on the web, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
No.
You can buy a Movado watch in Sam's.
Oh my God. Smashed it with your iron rod.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Absolutely smashed.
I stand corrected. I misspoke. My words upset so many people.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
I have never heard of something like that.
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to that.
We've never seen anything like it before.
What up, everybody? It is our Thursday show, and some shouts go out. Gail Guthrie, regular listener, regular viewer. This is for a new window behind you. It's a little dark.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gail, for that feedback, and I shall push it on to those in charge, of course. $19.99, love it. Super sticker from Karen Q for $9.99.
Thank you very much.
Oh, the Will Smith, thank you very much. Michelle Crocker for $9.99. I hate this bigotry. This don't say gay bill would be awful, harmful. I work with a child who had 2 moms. We cannot deny children the truth that different families exist. Right on.
Thank you.
Right on. I'm with you. Michelle Crocker, $4.99. As a pre-journalism major, I wish more journalists like you were out there. Much respect. Any advice?
Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, thank you for that nice comment. I don't know. I think journalism, unfortunately, is a tougher and tougher profession to make a living at. You can talk to Kim will throw in on this as well, as will John. I think the problem that you see in journalism now is one of access. People are willing to make too many compromises to get access to people. You see it certainly at the national level, where if
although she did say journalist, so the compliment was intended for Kim.
Well,
I am really.
What?
I am.
Seriously, what the
I think, though, when you look at print media and audio, like radio media and television media, no matter what type of media you're looking at, you're seeing cuts everywhere. You're seeing the industry change everywhere. And so your comment that this is a tough business to be in right now is right on the money. We'll never stop needing that information. We'll never stop needing it at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level. We're always going to consume it, but we're starting to consume it differently. So I think, that's where we're going. And unfortunately, as a journalist, you're never going to make a lot of money.
No, and I'll say one other thing about journalists worldwide. It's a dangerous profession now in a way that it might have been before, but I'd suggest it's even more dangerous now. If you're, and we're going to talk about this next hour with Belinda. We'll talk about environmental issues. But if you're really doing the uncovering of corruption that goes into so many industries that are toxifying the environment around the world, if you look in Mexico, Central America, overseas, even in Latin America, and I would include, certainly Russian journalists are.
Well, yeah, there was one recently pushed right out of a window.
So, if you look, I believe I'm
allegedly
kind of. You can Google this. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but I think that the numbers of journalists associated with uncovering environmental issues and pursuing corporate polluters, the number of journalists who've been killed in that world exceeds all other violence perpetrated against journalists. You can check it. But so I guess what I'm trying to say is, depending on your beat, journalism can be very, very tough.
The number for 2021 was 55 journalists and media workers killed around the world. That was the lowest annual death toll in a decade.
The
55.
thing about,
55 people killed for trying to tell the truth.
And threats to family and loved ones, that goes on without deaths actually happening, where you have to literally drop a story completely and no longer pursue it because of threats to your family. So,
and countless reporters disappear as well.
That's right. So Merry Christmas and good luck with your career. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I want to shout out to Rob and Soledad listening from Quito, Ecuador.
Nice.
Hola. They're listening at 9,000 feet. Wow. That's pretty cool. I wonder if the show sounds better at 9,000 feet.
I think it does.
I'll bet
if you're a little lightheaded.
Exactly. I think that's what we need.
Everything's funnier,
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
All right. The Rob and Soledad. Qué bueno. What do we say? What else should we say in Spanish? Anything?
Mucho gusto.
Mucho gusto.
Te amo.
Yeah. There you are.
Thank you for being part of our crew.
Yes. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Or gracias, as we say.
De nada.
I was surprised to see this. Robert Clary died, the guy who played LeBeau on Hogan's Heroes. You guys may not know. You knew, yeah.
What's Hogan's Heroes? Tell us, Mark.
Exactly. That's what I felt like there might be a little.
You were going for that, yeah.
Right. Robert Clary, he played Corporal LeBeau on Hogan's Heroes. He just passed away. He was 96 years old. But here's what I think is just remarkable about the Hogan's Heroes crew. So Hogan's Heroes, of course, about a prisoner of war camp in Nazi Germany, right? It wasn't a concentration camp. It was a prisoner of war camp. And that was a huge distinction.
And it was a comedy, right?
Yeah, and that's the point. You can't do a comedy about a concentration camp, but they felt they could do a comedy about a prisoner of war camp. These are all, military officers who've been, people who've been. There's LeBeau in front, and so they did, and it was a really successful series. And so here's if you Google it, and you can see Wikipedia Hogan's Heroes and all the different actors. Many of them came from Germany or Austria. They fled Nazi Germany. LeBeau, though, this guy, Robert Clary, spent 31 months in a concentration camp. He was a Jewish dude, Jewish family. He was a French actor, singer, and Holocaust survivor. He was, there were 6 seasons of Hogan's Heroes, and he was this little Frenchman and the last surviving member of the show's original principal cast. Born Robert Max Widerman in Paris in 1926, he was the youngest of 14 children. It's a strict Orthodox Jewish family that he grew up in. At age 12, he began singing and performing one day. When he was 16, though, he and his family were rounded up and sent to Auschwitz. It's brutal. My mother said the most remarkable thing. It's a brutal story. I get almost emotional reading it. So, but I'll just share this with you. I can't.
Oh. You have to tell the story now. I know it's hard. There's Mr. Clary. You can see him as a young man in Hogan's Heroes now. A sad situation.
Yeah, brutal. You should read this, Kim, though. Maybe you can read it. Can Kim read it, Johnny? Send her the link. It's just a paragraph. Send it to Kim.
Oh, yeah, send it to me. I'll read it.
Okay.
Although I'll probably cry, too.
It's just very painful.
You should
No, I don't think you're as big-hearted as I am. I don't think you'll cry.
Oh, you don't think? No, no. I'm a cold-hearted bitch. Is that what you're saying?
What?
All right.
So you have a journalistic experience.
Yeah, you can do that whole thing
news.
where you don't get emotional. I get emotional. I'm a very emotional person.
Yeah,
So
when you
that's
talk about the whale being killed, you don't talk about the head exploding.
Yeah, I cannot be. I'm an empath. Are you familiar?
Why
with
are you yelling?
There you go. Anyway,
My mother said the most remarkable thing.
so this is Robert Clary talking about his family were rounded up and they were put in Auschwitz, and so here it is.
I don't know if I can make it through it either. She said, behave. She probably knew me as a brat. She said, behave. Do what they tell you. Clary's parents were murdered in the gas chamber that day. At Buchenwald, Clary sang with an accordionist. That'll take the emotion out of it. Every other Sunday, to an audience of SS soldiers, singing and entertaining, and being in kind of good health at my age. That's why I survived it, he said. He was incarcerated for 31 months. He worked in a factory making 4,000 wooden shoe heels every day and tattooed with identification A5714 on his left forearm. He was the only one of his captured family to make it out alive. His mom, they tell you. Oh.
Yeah, brutal. Thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to mention, so Robert Clary, rest in peace, from Hogan's Heroes, the last surviving cast member. The friend and memory keeper of Anne Frank, just to keep with the Holocaust theme, is the feel-good holiday Holocaust theme. Hannah Pick Goslar, she was a friend of Anne Frank's. She's passed away at 93. And she was one of the last people to see Anne Frank alive at this place, Bergen-Belsen, the concentration camp where they killed millions of people. The girls had been schoolmates and friends for nearly as long as they could remember. From the first day of kindergarten, they were inseparable, her and Anne Frank. Like Anne, Miss Pick Goslar was a German-born Jew and had sought refuge in the Netherlands with her family shortly after Hitler came to power. So many Jews, I guess, fled to the Netherlands, and that was the hope, that was the high ground, right? She was a half a year older than Anne, and by her own account, almost nothing like Anne. She described Anne as feisty, etc. So she goes through all the details about Anne Frank. The girls shared a bond. They grew up, as I say, new in kindergarten, and they grew up to be teenagers together. For more than 2 years, they went into hiding to evade the Nazis. And then they finally were arrested August 4th, 1944. And she did see, in a weird coincidence, Anne Frank for the last time on the other side of a barbed wire barrier at Bergen-Belsen, the Nazi concentration camp in northern Germany. Yeah. And so they
I was just going to say,
Anne and her sister, Margot, died of typhus 2 months before the camp was liberated. in April of 1945. So it was a bizarre and twisted, eerie almost fact that if she had only lasted 2 more months, she would have been liberated. So sorry, go ahead, Kim.
No, it's just noting the timing of this, and that Mr. Clary was in his 90s, as was Anne Frank's best friend. And we're losing people with a direct knowledge of this history as we approach. I mean, we're seeing people involved, that generation involved in World War II, the members of the military here in the U.S. I think, you know, those folks are dying, and the people that were directly affected, that were incarcerated in these camps, you know, that if they manage to survive, they're dying out. And with that, we lose, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen anyone come into a classroom or an auditorium and speak about the experience they had, but it's very powerful and very moving. And we're losing that group of people that have, I think that's, I think that's sad, because we need them. You know, we need their stories. And I know we have it on recordings. It's just not the same. It's not the same. Yeah.
We need a link to the past. Of course, you're right. Yeah. It's not, there are these interactive, almost live interactive kinds of things that you can do. They've kind of tried to memorialize many of these stories. Right. I've been involved in some of these projects. They involve artificial intelligence, coincidentally. And you can actually speak to Holocaust survivors and ask them questions about the Holocaust. And I mean, any question at all. And the AI picks up little words, and then they find the right answer for you. It's and they exist in some museums. And I think, of course, the Holocaust Memorial, and of course the in Washington, the museum there. But anyway, sure. Your point's a good one, which is there's nothing like actually hearing from the people involved of the experiences. So anyway, those guys, those were notable passings. They were just happened to be linked to the Holocaust. It's sad, so sorry, but it just it makes me so sad. I mean, humanity is capable of such horror, you know. And I see us doing the same thing with the planet. It's kind of a slow motion, so we don't. But the die-offs of species and all the rest, and next hour we'll talk to Belinda about world leaders coming together or not coming together to preserve habitat. So smash the like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
And what is that? Oh, here it is. You sent it to her. Great. I wanted to mention also something else that was kind of wild, just because I'm talking about the planet. I don't know if I should say this for next hour or if I should. I started it. Let me just tell you about this real quick. You'll tell me if I need to take a break or something, won't you, John?
Maybe.
Okay. Male fertility is dropping off a ledge worldwide. Male fertility crash is accelerating worldwide.
What's happening to the swimmers?
Sperm counts fell by more than 51% between 1973 and 2018.
What?
And while sperm counts have been dropping for decades, the decline rate appears to be speeding up. I think it's a crisis we'd better tackle now before it may reach a tipping point, which may not be reversible, said the lead author of the study. The findings serve as a canary in a coal mine. We have a serious problem on our hands that, if not mitigated, could threaten humankind's survival. So what's happening is, since 2000, there's been this striking drop-off with an observed fall each year of a little less than 3%. That's more than twice as large a decline as there was at the beginning of this 1978 period. They've been tracking it since 1978. Why the decline? They're not sure. One major factor could be endocrine disrupting chemicals that are found in thousands of everyday items. We talk about this all the time. And this is what I talk about, toxifying the environment. I think of it in terms of cancers. You know, we've been able to really identify these things that provoke cancers and actually trigger mechanisms in the body that produce all of these illnesses.
Don't forget plastic.
You know, that's one of them.
Eating plastic.
Yeah. We consume so much plastic. So anyway, these endocrine disrupting chemicals that are found in thousands of these everyday things that we use. They're found in personal care products to food packaging, all of these compounds. They have particularly dire impacts, say researchers, on reproductive function. They're the phthalates. Is it the phthalates? How do they say it, Kim?
I think it's phthalates.
I think it's phthalates as well, yeah.
And the bisphenols, these are compounds used as linings in like water bottles and takeout
Plastics,
containers.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things are everywhere, though. It's just everywhere. And they think that this has created such an inundation of the environment with these environmental chemicals that it's produced this drop-off in viable sperm. A 2021 Danish study listed chemicals found in or derived from fossil fuels as possible culprits. So it's well established, I'll just finish with this, it is well established that these chemicals have become part of our tissues and fluids. It's kind of what John was saying with the plastics. We know that they can be a threat to wildlife. Unfortunately, too little has been done to uncover their role in humans. We know it, and we can't let go of it. Really a sad fact. But I have good news. I think it's good news, but I'll ask you. Everything seems to be stacked against the human species surviving for long. Yeah, Karen is right. Only we're the ones stacking it against the human species. If we would respect the environment and we'd look toward living sustainably, different deal. And, I get it. The plastic technology use of fossil fuel is a huge, huge thing. I think it's the planet trying to slow the human population, says Gail. Maybe. I think we're just, frankly, pissing in our own pond, to use the word.
That's
it's
lovely.
Just how you can foul your own habitat. We're the only species on Earth that fouls our own habitat. No other species on Earth does that. We're the only ones. And by the way, it would be bad enough if we're just our own habitat, but at the same time, of course, it's everybody else's habitat. It's every other species' habitat.
Sure. We're going to wreck it for everybody. When you talk about that, though, it reminds me of the movie, and I always forget the name of it, where fertility declines and no one can have babies anymore, and then this one baby is born and the world goes crazy. I don't know if you remember that movie, but...
I don't. Well, what's it called?
I don't know.
Okay.
Google it.
That's a great story, Kim.
Yeah,
it's a really good story.
Clive Owen was in it. It was something.
It was a really good movie.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's like the last baby, and they have to protect the baby, and nobody can have a baby, and everyone's like, no babies.
And it ends there on a boat or something, or he's on a boat with the baby or
something.
Children
of Men. Brian says it's called Children of Men.
Children of Men, that's it.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
Kim, how are you?
Very nice. Good. Children
Well,
of
this
Men.
episode's a Debbie Downer.
I know. The Holocaust, the end of humanity as we know it, the destruction of the environment. Anything else, Mark?
Oh my God, it's true.
It's not even Murder Monday.
It is going to spoil Christmas.
I mean,
it is
come
going
on.
to spoil Christmas. My God. Well, I don't know. I blame John for
Whoever is
I
producing
really
this
do.
thing
Yeah.
has no idea what they're doing.
All right. Do I have one more story? I think this is good. This is a good story. And then I will get into next hour. We're going to get into. I think there's this one exit poll I just want to tell you about, because you talk about elections and you talk about what was important, and I think there's some really important stuff. I left with you, 2 days ago, the story about how women, really young women, not women over 40, young women determined that outcome of the midterms. Without young women, that whole red wave happens exactly the way everybody was talking about it. It was the young women, and that's what Avila said on this show. He said young women are registering in numbers that will affect this election positively for Democrats. Now there's more exit polling, and I'll share that with you in the next hour. I also have some good news, but I'm going to save it until we get a
Tomorrow?
break from... Yeah. This is a wall-to-wall downer show. I don't want to break the mood.
Tomorrow on the Happy Show.
Are you kidding me? Absolutely smash.
Smash it. Smash the like button. Smash the like button. Like a little downer news. Look, you gotta have some down with your up. Otherwise, you don't know where up is.
Hey, I have stories from the sky. We could do that.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll do that next hour as well. So I've got exit polling numbers. I got stories from the sky. We've got It's the Planet Stupid with Belinda. Much to do. Thanks for being here. Smash the like button. Support us in any way you can. Great to have you here on this Thursday show. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL. The war between Russia and Ukraine will go on no matter what the weather brings, that according to a Kremlin spokesperson. As far as possible negotiations to end the war, he says Ukraine doesn't want to talk. NASA's Artemis rocket blasting toward the moon. It is full of science experiments. A team from the Southwest Research Institute is studying solar winds, which will be critical to setting up a base on the moon. No humans are aboard this rocket, but there are a pair of dummies at the wheel equipped with radiation sensing equipment. The Cleveland Clinic is at the site of a first-of-its-kind brain study. It's meant to find out why millions of people worldwide suffer from brain diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. The largest ever study for brain disease will be done over the next 20 years. The families of Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie are agreeing to a $3 million settlement in connection with the Petito family's wrongful death lawsuit. Laundrie is the suspected killer of Petito, whose body was found in Wyoming after being reported missing. Laundrie's remains were found in a Florida park where it's suspected he took his own life. Another election race decided in the Bay Area. Matt Mahan winning the fight to become San Jose's next mayor. With more ballots counted, he got 51% of the vote. His opponent, Cindy Chavez, conceded yesterday. She said she was obviously disappointed, but blessed, she said, to still be on the Board of Supervisors for 2 more years in Santa Clara County. Meantime, the mayoral race in Oakland is still tight, with Oakland City Council member Lauren Taylor still in the lead. 2 Muni light rail trains are running again in San Francisco after smashing. Well, police say one rear-ended the other. Happened near Brandon Street at the Embarcadero. 7 people were hurt. At least 5 went to the hospital. Everyone expected to be okay. It took about an hour and a half for crews to clear the scene, but it looks like the lines are back on schedule at this point. They're still trying to figure out exactly. Smash it with your Muni light rail. No, we don't want that.
Smash it with your iron rod.
And tickets for Taylor Swift's upcoming tour are going for big bucks on the resale market. We could see this happen, right? One show in Tampa could cost someone more than $28,000 to see Taylor Swift. Her fans, affectionately known as Swifties, have been facing high prices and delays as they've tried to snap up these tickets for her Bad Blood tour. $28,000 to see a concert. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for you. Whether you're an individual or you've got a business, if you need help with your taxes, you can reach Steve at 888-TAX-DEAL. He made it so easy with that number, or he's online as well, MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
I have never heard of something like that.
There's never been anything like it. This great movement of ours. Never been anything like it, and perhaps there will never be anything like it again. There's never been anything to compete with what we have all done. There's never been anything like this.
Nobody has ever put something like this together that I've ever seen.
Seriously, what the
What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? What up, and good morning to everyone. Hello to Tom, and good morning. Thank you for still not having any Cars for Kids, Laser Fund, and potential Tom Shane commercials. Here's $8, $10 for each one, $24.30. Wait a minute, $8.10 for each one. I get it now, so that adds up to $24.30. $8.10 for Cars for Kids, $8.10 for Laser Fund, and $8.10 for the potential of Tom Shane, your friend in the diamond business. Is that the business he's in?
Yeah. Your friend.
You can catch him in Bangkok.
Ads work.
Yeah, just fly to Bangkok. You can hang out with him.
Oh, is that right?
Big shout out.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, man. Thank you.
Because he makes the deals himself. He gets the jewels himself,
yes,
right?
He goes to Antwerp or something? Is that what he does?
Antwerp and Bangkok.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he has a lot of expenses.
Yeah.
fabulous producer, John Daly.
Oh, that was hot. That was a little too hot. Okay, sorry about that.
The laser fund, market volatility.
Tom. The laser fund. That's your most expensive day for you as a taxpayer. No, what was it? It's as an investor. Your most expensive day will be the day that you liquidate your 401k.
So everybody, take your life savings, liquidate it, and then buy insurance, which I'm not disclosing is insurance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Yeah.
So we have a free seminar in Manteca.
Well,
coming to your neighborhood.
I just want to say, if what's his name? The guy who does the laser fund.
I blocked it out of my head.
Oh, how about that? You hear it over and over. You don't know his name. Come on. I want to say, whoever you are,
Doug Andrew.
Oh, Doug Andrew. I love you and I respect you, and I will discipline John formally. I'll discipline him in after the show, in the post-show meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, just Google laser fund scam. You can read about how his son was disbarred and lost his license.
How dare you? How dare you, John? Stop that. I will not have you disparage. And a third lash for you, John. I'm sorry, Doug.
Ow.
I really am. And you'll be embarrassed when he's a sponsor. But I'm not giving up Steve Moskowitz. And he is our exclusive sponsor. So that's the thing. We don't have to go to Doug or anybody else for that matter. So any other comments that I need to get to? There's Steve Moskowitz, 888-TAX-DEAL, MoskowitzLLP.com. The great thing about Steve Moskowitz, I'll also say, first of all, he's a lawyer. Secondly, he knows tax code like inside and out. Whatever your problem, he really can help, and he's totally legit. Like, we didn't have to make some deal with the devil, you know? Sadly...
But we were willing to.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if the devil came calling...
Yeah, the devil was busy.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying, I would sell my soul to keep the show going for a while. It's, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Well, Steve is our friend in the tax business.
Yeah. We don't have to do that. Yes, I have stories from the sky to come. This hour, I've got Belinda Waymouth with It's the Planet Stupid. We'll talk about all things environment. I want to give you a little bit of something because I promised you on Ukraine. Mark Milley spoke about Ukraine. Here's a little bit of it, and you can just, because I think I get, particularly in the chat, everybody's, an expert, these military experts that are born overnight. The COVID experts have moved over to the military, and now we've got those experts. So here is a little bit of Mark Milley from his...
Start with the Russians. Ukraine's a pretty big country. This is not a small piece of turf. And the probability of Russia achieving its strategic objectives, of conquering Ukraine, of overrunning Ukraine, the probability of that happening is close to zero. I suppose theoretically it's possible, maybe, I guess, but I don't see it happening militarily. So I just don't see that happening. But they do currently occupy about 20% of that of Ukraine. So they occupy a piece of ground that's about 900 kilometers long, and I don't know, probably about 75 or 80 kilometers deep. So it's not a small piece of ground. And they invaded this country with upwards of 170, 180,000 troops in multiple field armies, combined arms armies. And they have suffered a tremendous amount of casualties, but he's also done this mobilization and called up additional people. So the Russians have reinforced. They still have significant Russian combat power inside Ukraine. Now, Ukraine's had great success in the defense. They did a tremendous job in defeating the Russian offensive. It's incredible what they were able to do. And then they went on the offensive at the beginning of September. And they had great success up in Kharkiv, and they've had better success even down in Kherson, as you just witnessed. But Kherson and Kharkiv, physically, geographically, are relatively small compared to the whole. So that the military task of militarily kicking the Russians physically out of Ukraine is a very difficult task. And it's not going to happen in the next couple of weeks unless the Russian army completely collapses, which is unlikely. So in terms of probability, the probability of a Ukrainian military victory, defined as kicking the Russians out of all of Ukraine, to include what they define or what they claim as Crimea, the probability of that happening anytime soon is not high, militarily.
So what he's, of course, hinting at then is a political solution.
Politically, there may be a political solution where politically the Russians withdraw. That's possible. You want to negotiate from a position of strength. Russia right now is on its back. The Russian military is suffering tremendously. Leaders have been, their leadership is really hurting bad. They've lost a lot of casualties, killed and wounded. They've lost, I won't go over exact numbers because they're classified, but they've lost a tremendous amount of their tanks and their infantry fighting vehicles.
So he's saying, look, you can take these, this is, by the way, without, minus the medals and minus some of the specifics, it's sort of what we've said, which is Putin ain't going anywhere. Even with a bloody nose and with the kind of devastation both to his forces and to Ukrainian forces and Ukrainian communities across Ukraine that he's leaving in his wake. But because of those losses, there might be a political solution. You want to negotiate from strength. Now would be the time to lean in on those negotiations. I mean, my God, you couldn't, I don't think, send more in the way of arms and support to this theater of war. It's clearly a proxy war. We discussed a lot of it yesterday, so I won't go into more of it today, but I thought you'd want those comments from Mark Milley. So, was there something? Oh, is it Mike Pence I wanted to play you, and then I'll do stories from the sky?
Oh, yeah, we got to get that
Yeah,
Mike
let me
Pence.
just give you a little Mike Pence. Mike Pence
We're all waiting for that.
Yes, I know. There are a lot of you Mike Pence fans. I don't want to, it's like the Taylor Swift fans.
Cuatro años más.
By the way, did you see that Amy Klobuchar is getting involved in that whole Taylor Swift incident?
How so?
Amy Klobuchar, because Amy Klobuchar is head of Committee on
Regulating concert tickets?
Antitrust.
the subcommittee on concert tickets?
Yeah, it's the StubHub committee. Yeah.
Yes, that, okay.
It's the StubHub subcommittee.
Right.
So Amy Klobuchar, who heads up this committee on, again, antitrust, essentially. I mean, collusion. And when you grant these huge companies such a wide berth like Ticketmaster, they make a certain deal with the government, which is that they're not going to screw their consumer. Now, we know they screw you anyway, but at some point, the screw job is so intense that the government gets involved. And because of the hue and cry over what happened with the Ticketmaster sales, and you had it in your news, all the Swifties getting locked out, it was clearly BS on the part of Ticketmaster. Klobuchar is investigating that and wants Ticketmaster to answer questions. So it's kind of turned into a big deal.
Google it.
Yeah, check it out. It's really true. So this ain't just a bunch of Swifties who got screwed out of things. Ticketmaster is going to have to answer if Klobuchar really continues to hold their feet to the fire. So there's that. Now, Mike Pence. All right. Tony, do you have it? Can we roll a little bit of Mike? I call him Mike.
Pelosi. And that the Democrat Speaker of the House appointed all the members of the committee.
After McCarthy, the Republican, removed his members.
But I must tell you, in my 12 years in the Congress of the United States, the idea of a partisan committee on Capitol Hill, a committee appointed by one party, was antithetical to what the Congress is.
It did happen before, though.
Stop it for a second, Tony. This is, you can see him default to talking points.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and the great thing about this moment is that Jake Tapper came with the goods. Mm-hmm. Don't try to pass off those talking points on us. The reality is that it was bipartisanship that was offered. You had people who were involved in January 6th, who were connected to January 6th rioters. They were proposed to be part of the committee. It's absurd on its face.
And every time you see him looking down, he's rebooting and loading a new script.
It's true. Tony, play it again from the beginning, if you would, please. Yeah, I want you to see, and it's not over. Tapper pushes back on him again. But
Can I
as
get a
John
hallelujah,
sort of
Jake
says,
Tapper? Yeah.
Come on, right. Check it out. Here we go. This is Mike Pence being
Pelosi.
asked about...
And that the Democrat Speaker of the House appointed all the members of the committee.
After McCarthy, the Republican, removed the members, his members.
But I must tell you, in my 12 years in the Congress of the United States, the idea of a partisan committee on Capitol Hill, a committee appointed by one party, was antithetical to what the Congress is.
It did happen before, though. It happened for the Katrina committee when Democratic leaders refused to cooperate. You were actually on Capitol Hill at the time. There was a Benghazi committee that was all formed by Republicans. So it's not unprecedented.
Well, and I must tell you, the principle itself was offensive to me. I thought the Pelosi.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you just see how he busted. Right. Get another script, another talking point. Let's do some stories in the sky.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Enough is enough! I have had it with these monkey-fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane! Everybody strap in!
Video shows a woman on a red-eye flight holding a baby while threatening to kill a United Airlines flight attendant.
What?
What?
United Airlines confirmed the incident. A disruptive passenger occurred in Chicago. A video posted to TikTok showed a woman with a baby telling the flight attendant, "I will kill you." Chicago police responded to the incident, and the FBI is investigating.
Am I the only one who gets on the plane, sits on the on the plane, and then gets off the plane?
Yes, you are.
Am I boring? Am I boring?
Yeah, that's so old school.
You have to really issue at least one threat, one drunken comment.
Yeah, there is that. Once you start pouring the alcohol, I think you are dealing with.
Are you willing to bet there was alcohol involved?
I bet my lunch. I don't know about
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol.
Not going beyond
involved.
lunch, though. United Airlines suspending service at JFK. That's in New York, of course.
That's a big
They're
deal.
temporarily
That's a huge
halting
hub, right?
service at New York's JFK. They say their schedule there is too small to remain competitive. United Airlines. In a note shared with the press, the airline said the start of the winter season, when more airlines resumed flying to and from JFK, contributed to this difficult decision. The significance of JFK to our operation here at United hasn't changed. We think New York customers deserve more choices, and robust United service to JFK is good for our customers, our employees, and our airline. As a result, we will continue our pursuit of a bigger and more desirable schedule for our customers and be ready to seize those opportunities if and when they surface. What a word salad of nothing, right? You're still so very important to us. Stay in touch, JFK. We can't wait to resume service when the opportunity is provided.
Times maybe yes, we don't know.
They've been negotiating with the FAA for additional slots or takeoff and landing authorizations. And I guess they're not getting what they want, and so they want to discontinue. Wow, that's big, big news. Spirit shareholders approve that takeover by JetBlue after a long battle for the discount airline JetBlue. Spirit Airlines shareholders have approved this takeover. It ends a 6-month battle to create the country's 5th largest carrier. The deal now faces a high hurdle with federal regulators because of, the Ticketmaster situation, the antitrust, right?
So if you want a frightening experience, now you're stuck with Frontier, right?
Right. Speaking of Frontier, they have this new thing. They have an annual pass that they've introduced now. It's an all-you-can-fly pass. It starts in the spring. The discount carrier is offering scant specifics about the product. They call it the Go Wild Pass. No price has been revealed yet. They say that
Go
the pass
wild, and they're serving alcohol.
Right. It's
but it has a million blackouts. There's a million. You can't fly over all these holidays.
That's the alcohol.
It's like a Disney pass. Frontier Airlines, I will note, as I reported on the Mark Thompson show yesterday, is being fined for trickery, for basically selling seats on planes and then under one return policy and then changing the policy before people can actually get their money back.
It's all all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
Wow.
So you buy your seats under one policy, and then they change it on you, and then they're trying not to give you your money back. Trickery. They're on the hook for $2.2 million. But who wants to do business with an
nothing?
You can't.
With
you really can't
with an
recover
airline?
it? I mean,
No, they changed the policy. Now they're having to pay fines because they did it, allegedly. But what a company policy. What a company to do business with that is kind of a bait and switch. No, thank you.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Well, they're short on details here, as you say. There will be blackout periods. It's a 12-month term with access to all the carriers' destinations. But if what Kim is saying is true, you'll have to find the right spot to actually be able to use your pass. Alaska Airlines actually has a pass already. They have a subscription service, and they launched this flight pass product there. That applies to Alaska Airlines California network. Also, Phoenix and Las Vegas are included in that. You pay $600 a year for that. And I think there's a Mexico's Volaris. There it is, another carrier that offers a subscription service, I should say. You can sign up with Frontier if you're interested in more information. Was there something else?
Yeah, the Errol Weber tweet is a crazy story. Did you see that?
No, can you do that story while I try to get the close? Can you?
So this
do it,
guy, he noticed that his luggage was missing, but he had air tags in the bags, right? And I think it was in Alaska. So he tracked them, and he realized that the bags were off-site of the airport, right? And it looked like it was in a residential house. So he tweeted to United, "Hey, United, one of your employees at Anchorage Airport rummaged through my luggage and took some film equipment home with them. They inadvertently took my Apple AirTags with them that I had hidden. Can you tell your employee who lives at," and then he gives the address, blah, blah, Clover Hollow Court, "to give me my stuff back," right? And so it blows up into this huge thing at United. Pretty crazy story.
Oh, wow. That is wild. Man,
does the guy ever get his stuff back in the end? Or no?
Does he get it back?
I believe he did, but it's crazy. He's taken the tweet down. The police were giving him difficulty because they were saying, "Oh, well, we can't go in there, right? We don't have the, we don't have the right to go into somebody's house." But
even though his stuff was stolen, that's odd. I don't know.
Yeah, because they don't have, I don't know. There's some technicality.
Wow,
But
that is
anyway,
wild.
I do believe he got his items back, but it was a pretty crazy online story.
That is wild. That is truly wild. And with that, we close Stories from the Sky for today.
This has been Stories from the Sky. The captain has turned off the seatbelt sign, and you are now free to move about the cabin.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good Stories from the Sky today. Nicely done.
Yeah, and John Daly, very well put together, I might say.
That's the segment that I planned.
Yes, that's
fabulous producer John Daly.
It's really true.
Sorry, next time I'll make it sad and depressing.
It didn't really fit in with this.
It didn't really fit in
show.
with the theme.
I'm sorry, kids. Every day can't be sweetness and niceness. There is stuff in the world that needs attention, and so we try to do it all here.
True.
Smash that like button, and we have It's the Planet Stupid coming up in a few minutes as well. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How about a Mark Thompson Show welcome for Steve Moskowitz, everybody? Come on.
Hey.
He is our elite sponsor. And very, very excited about, do I have my speaker on? Is that what you said before, Tony? Steve, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for stepping up in the first hours that we announced we were going to do this. It's so cool to have you a part of things. I was saying before, and I kind of make the point, because I think there are a number of year-end tax planning issues that one has to deal with. And even if you're not in the Bay Area, all across America, people have these issues, and you can help all of them.
That's right. We call it avoiding March madness. And that's when people get really mad around March when they say, "Hey, how could I owe all these taxes? Oh, these giant companies make billions. They don't pay taxes. What's the secret?" It's called tax planning. That's why I became a tax lawyer. I didn't want to chase ambulances or do divorces. I wanted to do for small business what the Fortune 500 had an army of people like me doing. And there's so many ways for business people to save taxes. And also, you can get money too, because you were talking about sad things a minute ago. It would be really sad if you left a lot of money on the table that could have been yours through ERC. ERC, Employee Retention Credit. This is where the federal government is rewarding employers who had employees during the pandemic of 2020 and 2021. And they're giving away, it's not a loan, giving away up to $26,000 for every employee that you have that qualifies. So that means if you had 10, that could be up to over $250,000. If you had 20, up to over $500,000. And I realize people's facts, circumstances, results differ, and not everybody qualifies. But Mark, we've had individual clients that have gotten millions of dollars, and lots of clients that have gotten hundreds of thousands, and others have got lesser amounts too. And you say, Steve, tell me, what do I have to do to qualify? And there's two ways. There's the easy way that everybody's doing, with a certain drop in gross revenue. But a lot of firms, a lot of CPAs are saying, if your gross revenue didn't drop by a certain amount, that's it, no ERC for you. Wrong. The law says there's two tests, either or to qualify. The other one's a facts and circumstances test. Now, a lot of firms shy away from that because it's not easy. You got to figure it out. But we're willing to take the time and the effort and the energy to sit down with you, figure out, do you qualify? And Mark, some of the clients, I'm giving them homework now. I said, well, you didn't have enough information for me to make a decision. So I'd like you to get me X, Y, and Z, and then we'll have a second meeting. And that's okay too. The bottom line is the only thing we care about is getting you every dollar to which you're legally entitled. On the other hand, watch out for the scamsters. There's a lot of fraud going on, and the IRS is investigating some companies over this. And there's some pop-up companies. They're not law firms. They just literally popped up, came into existence just to do ERC, and they're going to disappear the first time the IRS has a question. We are a tax law firm. We've practiced tax for over 30 years, and we want to keep you away from the two extremes. The one extreme where the CPAs are just don't want to be bothered with anything that isn't math and leave all kinds of money on the table that's your money, not theirs. And obviously, you don't want to fall in the hands of a scam. So you never, ever want to commit any type of fraud. Obviously, you do not want to commit a tax fraud. We're here for you. We want to get you every dollar to which you're legally entitled.
You can contact Steve, of course, at 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAXDEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. You can also reach him online, MoskowitzLLP.com, with the whole website up there. It's MoskowItz, MoskowitzzLLP.com. Steve, we love you. Thank you so much, my friend.
Love you too. Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Steve Moskowitz.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I wanted to play you this little bit of Herschel Walker before Kim's News, and I've got Belinda coming up, so I've only got another couple minutes, but I do want to, first of all, thank you for liking us, hitting the thumbs up, even if you're watching in replay, and you can watch the live chat, and you can leave comments in replay as well. You can't do it in the live chat because it's the live chat, but it'll say comments. You can leave your comments there, and we look at all the comments, and we so appreciate that. So definitely smash the like button like a boss so we can come up in the YouTube algorithm just the right way. Herschel Walker's on the stump, and he's trying to make a point, and it's going nowhere. The guy is...
It's like an engine trying to turn over.
Oh, my God.
I want to tell you to keep the faith.
No.
Oh, you ever watch a stupid movie late at night hoping it's going to get better, don't get better, but you keep watching it anyway? Because the other night I was watching this movie. I was watching this movie called Freak Night, or some type of night, but it was about vampires. I don't know if you know vampires are cool people, are they not? But I'm going to tell you something that I found.
Let me say something nice about Herschel Walker. You can see how he does have energy and charisma. He's very well known in Georgia. That's why he was plucked from Texas to be a candidate for the Senate in Georgia. So he has this likability. He is likable. He just doesn't know anything and doesn't know how to administrate anything, and he also doesn't know how to tell the truth.
So is everything that Mike Pence doesn't have?
Yes. Pence also doesn't tell the truth, but yes, he needs a charisma transplant from Herschel Walker. But Walker's talking about this vampire thing. I think he's trying to make a point about how you want things to change and they don't. And then he just gets into, it's insane because he Here he feels like, now I'm talking about something like I know something about, like this vampire movie I saw.
Because the other night I was watching this movie. I was watching this movie called Fright Night, Freak Night, or some type of night. But it was about vampires. I don't know if you know vampires are some cool people, are they not? But I'm going to tell you something that I found out. A werewolf can kill a vampire. Did you know that? I never knew that, so I didn't want to be a vampire anymore.
What?
I want to be a werewolf. But then anyway, as I'm watching this movie, and then you can tell how stupid it is because it's 1 in the morning. So I'm watching my TV. These kids watching their TV, vampire kill on their TV. So you know it's kind of stupid, but I'm still watching though. As I'm watching this show, what was funny, these kids had a vampire in their attic at their house. So they was watching their TV. Now I'm watching my TV as they watching their TV, or they see the vampire killer on their TV. So they win this contest to bring this actor. Now y'all got to stay with me. Bring this actor who's a vampire killer from that TV to get rid of this real life vampire in their attic. So as this actor comes to their home, he got all the right stuff. He got all the right stuff because, you know, I got to have a stake and got to have a thing to kill him in the heart.
You do not know
he got a necklace
what you
of
are
garlic,
talking
that
about.
worked. I don't know what it does, but it worked. You got to have a cross because it burns. I know that worked. And then all of a sudden, this is what was so funny about it. As they're walking through the house.
There's something funny about it. Okay.
This guy's got the holy water. He's blessing the house, this actor. Now, he's all fake. He's blessing the house with this holy water. They walked upstairs and this vampire looking real good in this black suit. Whoa, that sounds like Senator Warnock, doesn't it? Looking all good in this black suit, floated from the ceiling. He floated from the ceiling looking good and cool. And I'm thinking, whoa, they better get out of that house. If somebody float from your ceiling, get out of that house. That's not.
This goes on for another 1.5 to 2 minutes. It's crazy. But that's the guy the GOP is wrapping themselves around. I don't blame Herschel Walker for being who he is, but I do blame him for running for Congress. It's an embarrassment. It's obscene that this guy is anywhere near the same universe of support that the Democratic candidate has, Raphael Warnock. We'll do some... It's the Planet Stupid. There's big stuff happening. I was talking about it in the first hour. Belinda is along next. Smash the like button. In the meantime, it's the Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Who's Mark Thompson?
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will not be leading House Democrats soon. She announced she will not be seeking re-election to leadership. The White House says President Biden talked with Speaker Pelosi, congratulating her on her historic tenure. Russia is taking Brittany Griner to a penal colony in the Mordovia region. Reuters reporting the American basketball star was moved to an undisclosed prison location. Griner was sentenced to 9 years in a penal colony on drug charges. That was in August. A new report from the Boston Globe is shining a light on details related to the Martha's Vineyard migrant flight. It shows text messages among key players in the effort to organize the migrants in Texas and then have the state of Florida sponsor their charter flights to the vineyard. At one point, a businessman who owns Vertol Systems, the company used for the flights, is congratulated for persuading 50 migrants to sign up, from Larry Keefe, the public safety czar for Governor Ron DeSantis. As Mark mentioned, Taylor Swift's tester debacle, prompting Congress to comment on it. Chair of the Senate Antitrust Committee, Amy Klobuchar, saying Ticketmaster is abusing its market power because it doesn't have any pressure to offer competitive pricing. She is the latest to criticize the company after tweets from Democratic House members Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and David Cicilline asserting that it's a monopoly. The Atlanta Braves set to become a publicly traded company. The principal owner of the Braves, Liberty Media, announcing it will split off the MLB franchise and its associated real estate development project. To do so, the team joins the Green Bay Packers as the only major American sports franchise to be a publicly traded company. 2/3 of Americans still support marijuana legalization. That according to a new Gallup poll, which puts the number at 68%. Can I get a where my weed smokers at?
Where are my weed smokers at?
Yup, it's been at that level since 2020. 2/3 of Americans say yes to the pot. And in what my husband says is not dictionary, yet I disagree. The latest official Scrabble Players Dictionary has 500 new words. The first updated dictionary since 2018 includes shorthands like guac, trademarks like dumpster, and nouns turned into verbs like torrented and adulting. The potentially highest scoring new word for Scrabble, faux hawk. That's got an X, a high scoring W, got a K. Faux hawk, remember it.
What?
A haircut. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right, like a fake mohawk.
That's right. Faux hawk.
Okay.
Right. It's a potentially high-scoring word, so it's in my wheelhouse now. Yeah. The new words join more than 100,000 words of 2 to 8 letters. The official Scrabble Players Dictionary, the product of a long-standing partnership between the games maker Hasbro and dictionary maker Merriam-Webster. And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. Need help with your taxes? You can get Steve at 888-TAX-DEAL or online at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Regarding donations, Mossware Pro Audio. Shout out to Mossware Pro Audio. Give me a big shout out. You got a big shout out for me?
Big shout out.
Thank you.
That's nice.
Thank you, Mossware Pro Audio. Love that. Thank you so much for the support. You can leave us a super sticker, a super chat. That's the way you support the show. Also, our Patreon site. You can get all of that stuff. Patreon site, PayPal, if you're more comfortable with that kind of donation, you can do that. Sadly, we have to appeal to our listeners and viewers to support us, so it's an uncomfortable ask, but whatever you can spare is really something we super appreciate, and it will keep the show on the air, and it'll help us improve. It'll help us deal with a lot of issues that we have day to day.
Well, it might help us improve.
It might help us improve. It's true. All of that information is at themarkthompsonshow.com, themarkthompsonshow.com. And from themarkthompsonshow.com, you can go through to Patreon, you can go through to PayPal, etc. So I still don't have her open, but that actually means we'll have more time to speak with her. She is the eco-journalist who joins us on Thursdays. We do a segment called It's the Planet Stupid. You can find her on social media reporting generally positive stories about the planet, even as we seem determined as a species to destroy it. She's Belinda Waymouth, everybody. Hi, Belinda.
Good morning. Good morning, you guys. How are you?
We are well. We are well. I was reading some of the materials that you sent along ahead of your appearance, and it seemed I was discouraged by the fact that it doesn't seem as though the world, as reflected by world leaders, are really riding to the rescue of the environment. We're just finishing up this conference on the environment that you were talking about last time, and it's one of a couple of conferences. I wonder if you could speak to both.
Yeah, absolutely. COP27 is, it's not going so well.
That's the one that's going on now in Egypt. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is about climate change, and this is about how do we mitigate, how do we adapt? And the big theme, like I was saying last week, is this loss and damage fund. And developing, emerging nations are really stamping their feet and saying, hey, you guys who put all the carbon emissions up into the atmosphere and have caused all this terrible weather that we are really bearing the brunt of, the sea level is rising on our Pacific islands, Pakistan, as I, had those terrible floods this year, a third of the country underwater for months. Now there are terrible floods happening in Nigeria. And they are really aggressively, fighting for this loss and damage fund. And it was the big theme. And, the developed countries are kind of really pulling back on it. China is doing this thing where they're using these old international treaties where they were designated a developing nation to try and get out of their responsibility for funding loss and damage. And they are now the second largest economy and the biggest emitter of CO2. So
that's insanity.
It's just
These
crazy.
so you're in essence, you're suggesting. I mean, it's clear. Look, the U.S. and China, they should be on the cutting edge of setting the pace to cut back on emissions. Instead, they're looking for legal loopholes by which they might be able to evade emissions controls completely.
No, it's not emissions controls. It's they don't want to have to fund the adaptation and mitigation for developing nations. So they have actually said, yes, we're going to, still try and, what the G20 just said, world leaders at the G20 just said, we will still be pursuing efforts to limit temperature increase to the 1.5 degrees Celsius. But really COP27 has sort of boiled down to this, can we hold on to the 1.5 degrees Celsius, target, to limit warming to that? Because at one point, India and China were saying, hey, what about if we go back to the old number and say we can heat up to 2 degrees Celsius? And it's like, no, guys, we have to stay at the 1.5. That's what has been, designated as being the only safe place to be. And we're not on target to reach that right now. But the real haggling that's happening is over this money. And what developed nations have said is, look, we want to do this targeted funding to the countries that are most, adversely affected by climate change. What's happening is there's this group of countries, it's called the G77, and those are the developing nations. And when the G77 were first, they originated in 1964, part of the UN, there were 77 nations. Now there are 134 nations that are classified as developing. And they're the ones that are jumping up and down and saying, hey, we need money. And what's
by the way, essentially they changed the terminology around third world. They don't call them third world anymore. They call them developing. At least that's my understanding. So, just to recalibrate, the verbiage. We used to say these are third world nations. We're first world nation. Now they call those third world nations emerging nations, right? Yes. Emerging economies. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we're seen as too derogatory. Third world nations, second world, and then But just from the numbers, if you've got 134 of these nations out of 197 countries in the world, a lot of the world is in that category. So what's happened is the EU has got this deal, this has come out of, COP and obviously been talked about, we're going to give $1 billion to Africa. Well, $1 billion, that's great, but it's nowhere near, the 100 billion that was talked about, that's what the, developed world needed to, provide to the developing world. And then, last year, the numbers went down to, 20 billion and maybe doubling it to 40. But I'll tell you what really got my attention is a couple of days ago, Joe Biden is asking Congress to give the go-ahead for a, $34 billion to go to the Ukraine. And we are perfectly happy as the world is giving the Ukraine money. And absolutely, I agree, the Ukraine needs money. They have had this aggressive invasion by another country. It's a brutal war. They're really suffering. But so far, the world has given about $94 billion to the Ukraine. And here we are, at COP27 saying, no, we don't want to be funding, climate change mitigation and adaptation for, the emerging nations of the world. And I'm like, what? Excuse me? A war, yes, but because this is sort of, I don't want to put it in, really sort of couch it in terms of climate change being a war, but this is going to be like a campaign, for these countries to deal with, what's coming at them.
Yeah, it is a war. It's an environmental war. The damage is done. Just because you mentioned Ukraine, I want to make this quick note, and then I want to move on just so we don't run out of time. But the bill for Ukraine, as you suggest, is close to $40 billion, just this latest package, okay?
Yeah.
And
we've already given tons.
And these are all offensive weapons. These are all, or you want to call them defensive weapons, but they're weapons for war, or there's other sorts of aid wrapped up in that as well. But if there's a criticism for that, and I think there is, it's that it's all happening so quickly that no one knows where the money's going. It's a little like the way the Iraq War was being handled. I mean, there's a lot of waste, but I mean, I'm talking tremendous amounts of waste on a percentage basis. But more to the point that I'm trying to make, once the war ends, hoping it ends soon, but it may not, there's going to be a bill for rebuilding Ukraine. And that bill will dwarf this bill. It'll be hundreds of billions of dollars. Yeah, it will be. And so when you talk about the war that we have to fight to keep our environment in any way manageable, these monies have to be found. And we're busy tossing money into the fire on Ukraine. Again, we may have a moral imperative to do it on one level, but there has to be attention paid to the environmental fight that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings me to COP15, which is about to happen in Montreal. And this is the biodiversity conference that's going to happen. And this is, all about, how do we stop this sixth mass extinction that's happening, in the natural world right now. And the thing that, people, we have to wrap our heads around this. Nature, the global commons, provides invaluable climate change and adaptation services. I mean, the ocean, as we were talking about when we discussed plastics a couple of weeks ago and the damage they're doing in the ocean, we need to keep the ocean healthy because it sucks up a third of our CO2 emissions. So this conference that's about to happen in Montreal, super important. And the crazy thing is it's being overseen. It's China again. It's being overseen by China, which is the first time China is presiding over a major UN agreement. And so far, the Chinese leaders have been playing sort of a really modest role. And this is a really important, conference. It was supposed to happen, obviously, in China because they're the presiding country. But because of, COVID pandemic delays, it got moved to Canada. And then the big fear is that, Beijing isn't inviting world leaders to it because they don't want to embarrass their leader, Xi Jinping, because he's not expected to even go to it. And, you read that and you just sort of like, oh, people,
Yeah,
hello?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is there a plan? I mean, if China's overseeing it, is there a strategy that is even a loose strategy laid out? Or what is the even short-term future for that?
Well, there was a side meeting at COP27, the climate change talks in Egypt. So they did have 30 countries were, talking about it. They've got a framework. What's happening with biodiversity loss is that, really it's sort of a bit like climate change, it's nation by nation, as to how we, what we've set up is this, 30 by 30, that by 2030, 30% of our waters and 30% of our land in the US will be protected. And that's super ambitious and great. And we are getting, a lot of these marine protected areas in the ocean. But, what people have to really, the climate and nature, those two agendas are absolutely entwined. And, to have international agreements on what we do to save biodiversity, because the other thing is everything is, interconnected. The oceans and the atmosphere, they connect all countries. So if you're polluting like crazy in your country, as my husband likes to say to me, you can run, but you can't hide. That stuff is, it's a global problem. So, these conferences are really about our collective well-being. And, I think that, I just see it like it's a schoolyard and it's everyone from kindergartners to, seniors in high school. And, you've got the tough and heavy and, the big players and the smaller players. And we're really squabbling right now. And we need to get beyond that. We need to really sit down and come together.
Well, but what you're talking about for this meeting, we're talking to Belinda Waymouth, who is an eco-journalist and watches this stuff. And what you're talking about in this summit that takes place in Montreal is that you're not getting that buy-in. At least there's no unless they're sending others, you're saying world leaders are not planning on attending that summit?
Well, the thing is, they say that, Beijing hasn't invited world leaders because they don't think Xi Jinping is going to attend. And if he doesn't attend, and other world leaders do, it will be an embarrassment.
Sure, I get it.
And
but
that's
can't he attend virtually? Can you throw that into the? I mean, can't he zoom into the meeting?
Ooh, it's a wild idea.
I'm just saying it's not like it's unprecedented.
Yeah, I'll get on the phone to Xi this afternoon, and I'll get on it, Mark, because I'm with you. I believe it's super important.
I mean, even a virtual presence, my point is, would be helpful. It helps elevate and create some momentum, I think, to this entire thing.
Yeah, well, COP27 was sort of falling apart until, they went back to world leaders who, moved on from Egypt last week to Indonesia for, the G20. And, and then they got pressed and they said, yes, we will still, pursue our efforts to limit temperature increase to this 1.5 degrees Celsius, after it seemed like that was falling apart in Egypt. And I mean, what they're saying at COP27 is they think the most they're going to get out of it is to hold to that target, amount of warming, the 1.5 degrees Celsius, that they'll be able to hold on to that because it looked like that was going to slip away, and that there will be incremental steps made towards, these loss and damage funds that the G77 are saying, are imperative for their survival. And, like I was saying last week, what's happening to the planet is going to lead to, a lot of climate refugees. If we don't like what's happening with, migration, right now, that is only going to be exacerbated by, climate change, famines, droughts. People are going to be on the move.
Certainly that's true. Exacerbated is a ding word, by the way, please. Yeah, I think that's undeniably the case. It's already happening with, famine-driven refugee crises across Africa, et cetera. But I mean, I think increasingly famine is going to be the ripple effect of climate change, of the climate crisis. And as you see these ecosystems crater in the ocean, particularly, and across the globe, I really was glad to see that there is at least this summit planned for Canada where we're talking about protecting some of these habitats. We're talking about an extinction here of massive proportion, man-made. And the idea that, we can't get the countries to show up for that, it's really, I mean, it's astounding to me. And as you said once, it's because it's happening sort of on a global level more slowly, but now it would seem as though it's pretty clear and it's happening more rapidly, Belinda. You have to wrap up here, but just a minute or two, please.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, everyone kept on talking about, 2050 was going to be, when things got really bad. Well, I would say that's happened already. I mean, I think it happened in back in 2015 when it was so hot in Pakistan and India, the pavements were melting and all the people were, dying from the heat waves. One thing that did happen this week, which I was a little gobsmacked and very happy to hear, Jeff Bezos, however we pronounce his name correctly, has said that he's going to devote his fortune to climate change and also to funding and supporting better political systems around the world. And I kept on thinking, man, that guy's only spending his money on trying to go to Mars to save life on Earth. Well, now he's actually talking about using, that huge fortune, on this very issue. So I thought that was super promising because, it's going to be all hands on deck. And if world leaders are dilly-dallying, yes, we need the private sector to step in. And like I always say on the show, because I'm going to end it on something positive, Mark, I am.
Oh, okay. Well, that's remarkable.
Yeah, but we are making this move to renewables in spite of what world leaders are doing. I mean, I tweeted this morning about, Scotland and England and the battery systems that they're going to have, solar and wind power. This is happening and we're going to move to renewable energy. And what we need to do then is help these developing nations do it quickly as well, bypass oil and gas. A lot of them are on coal right now. Okay, get off the coal, but, not to start using natural gas. Let's get you straight to, the sun, because the sun is where it's at.
Well, they have to scale that up that, and you're right. I mean, the one thing that's happened is perhaps that with the rising cost of energy, that's become more economical. That was certainly the hope. The scalability is there, but it has to be pursued aggressively. So I guess, I am encouraged by some of what you say. I feel as though the alarm is going off, and I don't know that the world is responding in such as though an alarm is going off. You can find Belinda at Belinda Waymouth, Waymouth. A lot of love for you in the chat. People say that you should speak at the conference.
Yes.
Yeah. But more than anything, a lot of thanks for you. And Belinda is amazing. Thank you very much for having her on the show. Yeah, really cool. That's from Sandbug. All right, listen. Let's talk next. Oh, are you going to be with us next? No, you're not. You're missing a week. Is that right?
Yeah, I have to miss 2 weeks, I'm afraid. Next week I'm going to be giving.
What?
I'm so sorry. I will miss you. I will miss you, but I'm going to.
Maybe you can still push along some things we should talk about if you run across anything. No obligation, but just saying, if you would, that'd be great. Thank you, Belinda Waymouth, again, all across social media. We love having you here. Thanks, Belinda.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I know. I got to wrap up, John. I know. You don't need to hit me over the head with it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
You can't eat money. Who said that? That's really smart. Whoever said you can't eat money, that's a great call. Great comment.
I'm sure someone's tried.
At noon, David Lightman on what a GOP House means for California. Mark Fisher talks about our divided government. There's a fentanyl vaccine and a shortage. Plus, asparagus pea ends a celebrity relationship. Wow. Nikki Maduro does a lot. That's always a cool listen and watch. So check it out. What, are you kidding me, Brian Kim? Thank you, Brian Kim, for $2 super sticker. Appreciate a little money on the way out. It takes money to run this operation, sadly. So I appreciate you guys pitching in any way you can. You're
You're down to 5% battery.
I know. I'm trying to wrap up. I feel that we've done well today. Was there anything I need to do, John? I feel I need to do something. Can't eat money, especially if it's a crypto coin, says John Watson. That is true. If you are in the replay and you're watching us in replay, smash that like button like a boss.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
And hit that thumbs up. And then also leave us something if you possibly can. The heart with the $sign is how you leave us something on YouTube. I've told you the other ways. TheMarkThompsonShow.com. Click-throughs to our Patreon. Click through to PayPal if that's what you prefer. It's TheMarkThompsonShow.com. And you can also reach me on email. I'll check the emails after the show, and we'll do some of them tomorrow. We'll also recognize some of you who were so terrific in stepping forward in the early days of the show. I won't go into the whole thing now. I talked about it at the beginning of the show. And the email address is themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. So that's how we do that. Very, very cool to have everyone here. Kim, any last thoughts?
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
I feel like we started on the, as John said, Debbie Downer note, but I feel like we kind of, we had our moments. I'm liking the way the show went today. Really.
I didn't think we started on Debbie Downer. I think we got to Debbie Downer. We started with the gay marriage, or the same-sex marriage, as it's called. We started with Pelosi. We did a little bit of that.
The show kind of flatlined there for a minute.
We did it. We got the Holocaust is a bummer, okay, guys? So a couple of Holocaust survivors died.
When a show has tears and laughter, you know it's good.
Yeah,
so I walk away satisfied.
Well,
The Mark Thompson Show.
We've all learned a little something about each other.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Okay. You can never say it enough, Shadow. Yeah.
What he's got going here is a situation.
We'll be back tomorrow, everybody. Friday Fabulous Florida tomorrow.
I apologize to all who have been hurt. I apologize to every preacher and pastor.
Politics with Michael Short.
Our liar. Calling me a liar? Is that what you calling me?
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
No context will suffice to explain the hurt and anguish caused by my words.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
I think I'm the most honest human being, perhaps, that God ever created.
Nobody has ever put something like this together that I've ever seen.
There's never been anything like this. There's never been anything like it.
Brothers and sisters, till tomorrow. Bye-bye.